A fisherman sits on the limestone slope of a Galilean hillside, feeling the evening chill settle into his shoulders. The performance reading completely misses. The real question of this teaching isn't, "Are you shining bright enough?" It's this: what are you building to cover the flame? There is a detail hiding in plain sight that unlocks exactly what this heavy wooden box represents. When Luke records this same teaching in the 11th chapter of his Gospel, he includes the terracotta lamp, the wooden stand, and the absurdity of the hidden cellar. But immediately after he mentions the light, Jesus pivots to human anatomy. Looking at the crowd and declaring that your eye is the lamp of your body, to the modern reader, this sounds like a sudden change of subject. A confusing jump from household furniture to human biology. But in the ancient Near East, the cultural understanding of the eye was entirely different from our modern scientific consensus. They did not view the eye as a passive window that simply allowed external light to enter the mind. They understood the eye as an active projector, a radiant lamp that pushed the internal state of the heart out into the physical world. In first-century Jewish idiom, a good eye was a common phrase that meant a person was generous, content, and deeply grateful for what they had been given. A bad eye meant a person was stingy, envious, and constantly looking sideways to compare their own portion of grain to their neighbor's harvest. This is why the modios, the heavy wooden grain measure used for daily commerce, calculating wages, and measuring out survival is the exact object Jesus warns them about. The answer changes how you read every command about light he ever gave. We live in a culture of spiritual exhaustion, a profound fatigue where the basket is not a momentary lapse in moral judgment. It is the suffocating weight of economic and social anxiety. When you become obsessed with measuring what you have against what you lack, your focus narrows into a tight, squinting gaze. When your eye is constantly darting toward the scales of commerce and the security of your own reputation, you are placing the wooden measuring bowl directly over the flame. The oxygen burns up. The house fills with an acrid, oily smoke that burns the throat and stings the eyes. The light does not die because you stopped believing in God. The light dies because you became consumed with keeping score. The anxiety of measurement will always smother the beauty of presence. This is how we extinguish the kalos, the magnetic warmth that is supposed to draw people in from the cold. We stumble through a house that should be glowing, coughing on the smoke of our own exhausting calculations, entirely blind to the fact that the fire was given to us as a gift, not a wage. But to truly understand where this gift of fire actually originates, you have to look at the only other time this specific radiance appears on a mountain. Moses climbs down the jagged rocks of Sinai. The carved stone tablets pull at his shoulders. The desert wind whips sand against his ankles. Wake up every morning trying to strike a flint, hoping they can manufacture enough morality to push back the dark in their own lives. He steps into the camp. He expects a gathering. He gets a panic. The people run. They scatter in terror. They cannot look at his face. His skin is blinding. His face radiates a terrifying, white-hot glow. He asks for a piece of cloth. He ties a thick veil over his face. He covers the radiance. He hides the glory. This is the first great mountain of light. Moses catches the glory of God. He acts as a human mirror. He reflects the divine presence. But a reflection has a fatal flaw. A reflection always fades. The further Moses walks from the mountain, the dimmer the light becomes. The veil protects the people from the terrifying glory, but it also hides the inevitable fading. Centuries pass. Another mountain. Another climb. Another encounter in the clouds. Jesus walks up a high ridge. Peter shivers in the altitude. James watches the sky. John waits in the silence. The clouds drop low. The air grows damp and cold. Then, the physics of the earth break open. His face shines like the sun. His clothes become a violent, brilliant white. The light is blinding. It cuts through the fabric. It shatters the heavy mountain fog. But this light is fundamentally different from the light on Sinai. Moses caught a reflection. Jesus holds the source. We have treated the light as something we have to generate. We assume if the room is dark, it means we have failed to be good enough. The fire on Sinai struck the skin from the outside. The fire on Tabor erupts from the inside. Moses wore a veil to cover a dying glow. Jesus wears human flesh to house an eternal flame. The light on that mountain is not a reflection. It is an eruption. When Jesus sits on the Galilean hillside and tells the crowd they are the light of the world, he is holding both mountains in his mind. He is not asking them to be Moses. He is not demanding they climb a mountain to catch a temporary glow. He is not asking them to act as a mirror. He is not expecting them to wear a mask to hide the fact that their moral energy is running out. He is placing the Tabor fire inside Galilean clay. You do not strike the match. You do not generate the voltage. You do not manufacture the spark. You are not the fire. You are the vessel. The clay has exactly one job. It sits on the wooden stand. It stays out of the heavy grain measure. It lets the oxygen feed the flame. But that echo does not stop in the first century. Because if the fire is entirely a gift, Jesus is not asking you to manufacture light. He is telling you to stop blocking it. To feel the weight of this distinction, you have to step, and if the light is already lit. Why does modern faith feel so utterly exhausting? Why are we all so incredibly tired? Look at the posture of the average modern believer. You can see the exhaustion. It is a quiet, chronic fatigue that settles into the jaw and the shoulders. An ache that comes from spending years trying to manufacture a fire you were only ever meant to hold. We sit under the harsh, humming fluorescent lights of our offices, or we stare into the blue glare of our screens late at night, aggressively managing our moral portfolios. We measure our discipline. We calculate our spiritual productivity. We curate our public behavior to ensure we look sufficiently holy to the people around us. We have turned the Christian life into a frantic exercise in combustion, but combustion requires fuel. And if you believe you are the source of the fire, the only fuel you have available is your own effort. So you burn your energy, you burn your willpower, you burn your empathy, and eventually, you just burn out. The wick turns to black ash. The oil dries up. The clay grows cold. This exhaustion is not a sign of spiritual maturity. It is the symptom of a profound theological misunderstanding. We have completely forgotten the physics of the lamp. Onto that hillside. You have to smell the olive oil burning in the terracotta lamps and feel the rough clay of the vessels in your own hands. A terracotta vessel does not panic about the shadows. It does not strain its clay walls to push the light further into the room. It simply rests on the wooden stand and allows the fire to do exactly what fire naturally does. When Jesus says, "Let your light shine," we misread the grammar. We assume shine is the action we must perform. But in the original syntax, the active command is entirely focused on permission. The active word is let. It is a command to allow it to happen. It is a command to get out of the way. It is a command to stop throwing heavy wooden measuring bowls over your own soul. The anxiety of keeping score. The desperation to prove your worth. The terror that someone might discover you are just an ordinary, fragile piece of clay. These are the modios. They are the thick, opaque baskets of performance that suffocate the kalos. The beautiful, magnetic warmth that God already ignited inside you. The instruction is not a demand for you to increase your voltage. It is a plea for you to remove the basket. You are trying to be the power plant. He is only asking you to be the lamp. You have to understand what it actually took to keep a house illuminated in the ancient world. And the place to start is not the fire. When you finally stop trying to strike a spark from your own exhausted heart, you feel the weight lift. When you finally take the heavy wooden grain measure off the flame, you can breathe again. And when the smoke clears, you begin to see the shape of the entire story. Because this is how he has always worked with the dark. God speaks into the formless void, and the primeval darkness shatters. A city is built on a high limestone ridge, and the night in the valley is pushed back. A mother strikes a spark in a mud brick room, and the cold shadows retreat. From the corners, A heavy wooden grain measure is lifted off the floor, and a suffocating flame finally has oxygen to breathe. An eye stops squinting at the scales of commerce, and the human body floods with radiant warmth. A prophet covers his face, with a thick veil, and a fading reflection is hidden from the crowd. A savior erupts in brilliant white on a mountain, and the eternal fire is freely handed to fragile, ordinary dirt. Same light, same clay. But here is the part I keep coming. Back, the basket, the modios. Jesus did not warn those fishermen about the wind blowing the flame out. He did not warn. The place to start is the very specific, very heavy wooden object. Jesus warns them not to put over the flame, put them about the rain. He warned them about their own heavy, wooden tools of calculation. The greatest threat to the beauty of your life is not that you will fail to try hard enough. It is that your anxiety to measure your own worth will suffocate the very thing God has already lit inside you. If you are in a season where faith feels like a treadmill, you cannot step off. If you are waking up exhausted from trying to strike a flint just to prove you belong in the room, just stop. You are not a power plant. The command is not a demand for moral production. It is permission to rest. You do not have to generate the fire. You only have to sit on the wooden stand. If this opens something for you, subscribe and leave. A comment, even one word helps. Share this with someone who is burning out from trying to shine. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. And may the God who trusted his eternal fire to ordinary, earthen vessels give you the grace to finally put down the basket and simply let the warmth be felt. Look at the layout of any modern bookstore, or scroll through the glowing blue feeds of morning routines and daily affirmations. You will see an endless market built on the promise of helping you find your spark. Ignite your potential and radiate positivity. Below him, the water is turning the color of bruised iron. Above him, torches begin to flare to life in a mountaintop village, violently piercing the dusk. We have absorbed this cultural anxiety into our theology. When modern readers encounter the command to let your light shine, we immediately translate it into the language of an industrial power plant. We picture ourselves as the generators. We assume that if we just shovel enough good deeds into the furnace, if we manufacture enough discipline, and if we sweat through enough moral effort, the electricity will finally flow, and the bulb will glow. This is the theology of the treadmill. You keep moving. Your heart rate spikes. Your muscles burn, but you never actually arrive. The moment we treat the light as a product of our own moral labor, we enter a quiet, devastating cycle of exhaustion. We start curating our behaviors. We smile through gritted teeth near the church lobby coffee station. We make sure our charitable moments are positioned just right, polishing the glass of our own reputations, so everyone can see how cleanly we burn. We become terrified of our own shadows, believing that any moment of failure, any flicker of doubt, or any crack in the clay will extinguish the flame entirely and plunge everyone around us into the dark. And he listens to a rabbi who is about to hand him what sounds like an impossible command. You know the words, but this entire framework is built on a Western, industrialized definition of illumination. Jesus is not handing you a blueprint for a power plant. He is describing the physics of a house. In the ancient world, you did not create light by trying harder. You did not stand in the center of a dark room and strain your muscles, hoping to spontaneously combust into holiness. You simply took a flame that already existed, and you placed it where it belonged. The effort was not in the generation of the fire. The effort was in the removal of the obstacles. We have spent centuries trying to be the fire, completely missing the fact that Jesus called us the lamp. A lamp does not create the oil. A lamp does not strike the flint. A lamp is simply a vessel of clay, baked in an oven, designed to hold a heat it could never produce on its own. To see the difference, to feel the massive relief of what this command actually meant to the people who heard it first, you have to look up from your own frantic efforts. You, 1,000 sermons have been built on them. Sunday school classrooms are decorated with the memory of them. Let your light shine before others. Have to look exactly where those first-century fishermen were looking when the words left his mouth. Because he was not just speaking in abstract metaphors. He was pointing at a specific, physical reality suspended in the night sky, right above their heads. The sun drops behind the western hills. The wind pulls off the lake. The grass grows damp with evening dew. The crowd shivers. They pull their woolen cloaks tight. They wait for the next instruction. But the rabbi is not looking at them. He is looking up. Above them, built into the high limestone ridges of the Galilee, a city begins to wake up to the night. It might be hippos. It might be Safed. But the physical reality is the same. The houses are constructed from white stone. Darkness in the ancient world is not an inconvenience. It is a physical weight. It swallows the dirt roads. It hides the cliffs. It blinds the travelers. But up on the ridge, a spark catches. Olive oil hits the flax wick. The flame erupts. Yellow fire strikes the white masonry. Another house lights up. Then another. The light spills down the slopes. It cuts through the blackness of the valley. You can smell the wood smoke drifting on the wind. Put your lamp on a stand. Do not hide it under a basket. Same command. Echoing through the texts again and again, you can see the glow reflecting off the surface of the water below. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. The city does not strain. The stone does not sweat. The buildings do not generate their own fire. They simply reflect what has been lit inside them. The architecture exists. The fire is kindled, and the darkness shatters. Jesus looks at fishermen. He looks at tax collectors. He looks at women who have been marginalized and men with dirt beneath their fingernails. He tells them they are the light of the world. He does not tell them to become the light. He does not ask them to try harder to glow. He states it as a fixed, unalterable fact of the cosmos. This is not a command to perform. It is a declaration of reality. If you belong to the kingdom he is building, you are the light. The fire has already been lit. The white stone is already in place. The city is already elevated. You could not hide it from the valley if you tried. But then, he narrows the lens. He moves from the glowing mountain down to a single, dark, mud brick house. He brings the metaphor into the living room. He talks about a terracotta lamp and a wooden stand, and the good works that everyone in the room is supposed to see. Most people hear those words and immediately feel a specific kind of weight. They assume it is an instruction about moral performance, and this is where the English translation betrays us. Because the word he uses for good is not the word they expected to hear. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. Jesus is finishing the metaphor of the glowing city and the burning lamp. He delivers the phrase that has launched 1,000 modern guilt trips. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. When we read the word good in English, we immediately think of moral perfection. We think of behaving correctly, keeping our hands clean, avoiding scandal. But the word Jesus uses here for good is the Greek kalos. In the ancient Greek world, there are two primary words translated as good. The first is agathos, which means morally upright, righteous, or legally correct. If a magistrate makes a fair ruling, that is agathos. If you keep the commandments and do not steal your neighbor's grain, that is agathos. But Jesus does not tell them to let people see their agathos deeds. He uses kalos. Kalos means beautiful. It means attractive, compelling, and magnetically appealing. It is the word you would use to describe a ripe, perfectly formed fig, or the grain in an exquisitely carved piece of cedar wood. If the idea that God wants your life to be beautiful rather than just strictly well-behaved is stirring up questions you've never considered, a command to try harder, to be a better person, to make sure everyone around them notices their flawless behavior so God can get the credit. You're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe, because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So the command is to let your light be kalos. This is not an isolated choice of vocabulary. When Jesus calls himself the Good Shepherd in John 10, he does not say he is the agathos shepherd. He says he is the kalos shepherd, the beautiful shepherd, the one who draws the sheep by the sheer tone of his voice. When the master of the banquet tastes the water turned to wine at Cana, he does not praise its moral standing. He says the groom saved the kalos wine for last. It was rich. It was deeply satisfying on the tongue. That root changes everything. When Jesus talks about your light shining, he is not handing you a clipboard of rules to strictly enforce. He is describing a life that pulls people in from the cold. The light is not a demand for rigid perfection. It is an invitation to warmth. But to live a life that is beautiful, you have to let the flame breathe. And the detail that makes this entire teaching remarkable is the bizarre object he warns them not to place over the fire. Picture the inside of a first-century Galilean house. One room, mud brick walls, a dirt floor packed hard by sandals. We read it as a spiritual performance metric. We assume it is a demand for production. But if you look closer at the specific Greek words, the sun goes down, the darkness pushes in, the cold creeps through the stones. The mother of the house takes a small terracotta lamp. She fills it with pressed olive oil. She sets a flax wick in the clay spout. She strikes a spark. The flame catches. She walks to the center of the room. She places the lamp on the wooden stand. The shadows retreat. The room warms. The family can see their food. They can see each other's faces. And then, Jesus paints a picture of pure absurdity. He asks the crowd if anyone would take a lit lamp and put it under a basket. In English, basket sounds light. It sounds like woven reeds. It sounds harmless, like something that might just dim the glow a little bit. But the Greek word Jesus uses is modios. A modios is not a wicker basket. It is a heavy, thick wooden bowl. It is a commercial tool used to measure out a peck of dry grain. It is solid. It is dense. It is entirely opaque. Every person listening on that hillside owns one. It sits in the corner of their house, covered in barley dust. It represents commerce. It represents daily labor. It represents the grinding anxiety of survival. If you take a heavy wooden grain measure and place it over a burning terracotta lamp, two things happen instantly. Jesus chooses on that mountain, at the ancient objects he points to, and at the physics of the metaphors he uses. You start to see something. First, the oxygen vanishes. The flame suffocates. The light dies in a choke of thick, oily smoke. Second, if the flame somehow survives, the wood catches fire. The measure burns. The roof catches. The house burns with it. It is a ridiculous image. The crowd would have laughed. Nobody does that. It goes against the very physics of fire. You do not light a wick just to smother it under a heavy wooden box. You put it on the stand. The stand is the lichnea. It is a piece of furniture designed for one purpose: elevation. It lifts the clay. It gives the flame room to breathe. The basket is not a harmless covering. It is an instrument of suffocation. When Jesus warns them about the modios, he is not giving them a lesson in interior design. He is diagnosing the exact way we extinguish our own beauty. We do not lose our light because the flame runs out. We lose it because we throw a heavy wooden box over the top of it. But what exactly is that box? What is the modios we keep placing over the flame in our own lives? To find out, you have to leave Matthew's Gospel and listen to how Luke remembers the exact same teaching.